All right, today we're going to dive into a topic that, let's be honest, can feel a little confusing, maybe even a bit intimidating: spiritual perfection. It really is a paradox, one that has puzzled believers for a long, long time. So let's see if we can unpack it together.
So let's just get right to the big question, right off the bat. Can a flawed, fallible human being, like you and me, truly be perfect? I mean, it sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It really all comes down to what we mean by the word perfect. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the perfection puzzle itself. Then we'll redefine the word perfect. After that, we'll explore the pathway to get there, untangle the whole paradox with grace, and finally, land on the one key takeaway you need to remember.
Okay, section 1, the perfection puzzle. You know, for so many of us, when we hear the command to be perfect, it doesn't sound inspiring. It sounds intimidating. It can feel like this impossible goal, almost like we're being set up to fail. And here's probably why. We tend to think of perfection as becoming some kind of flawless, almost robotic person who never messes up, right? Never has a wrong thought, never makes a single mistake. But that sets a standard that is just completely unachievable. And more importantly, it totally misses the biblical point. So that brings us to section 2. We have to redefine the word perfect. You see, the key to solving this whole puzzle isn't about trying harder. It's about understanding the word differently. It's not about being flawless. It's about something much, much deeper. And this, right here, is the absolute key. We have to separate the perfection of character from the perfection of nature. Our physical nature, our bodies, our minds, that's going to remain fallen and flawed as long as we're in this life. But our character, our will, our mind's alignment with God's truth, that can be perfected. It can become settled, unshakable. You know, there's actually a theological term for this state of perfected character. It's called sealing. Ellen G. White puts it beautifully. It's a settling into the truth, both with your head and your heart, so deeply that you simply cannot be moved. It's all about developing this deep, unshakable conviction. And this all goes back to the original language. When Jesus says in Matthew 5:48, be perfect, the Greek word he uses is teleos. And teleos doesn't mean flawless in a mechanical sense. It means complete, mature, fully grown. Think of an apple tree that has reached its full potential and is bearing perfect fruit. It's about fulfilling the purpose you were designed for. I love this quote because it gives us such a great mental picture of how this works. A perfected character isn't something you build yourself. It's an impression that's made on you. Just like warm wax takes the perfect impression of a seal, our soul is meant to take the impression of God's Spirit until it reflects the image of Christ. Okay, so if that's the goal, how do we actually get there? Section 3 lays out the pathway to perfection. How does this whole settling in thing really happen in a person's life? Well, the key thing to remember is that it's a process, not a single event. It's a journey. It starts with just hearing the truth. Then it moves to really understanding it, getting the why behind it. From there, you form a personal conviction. You truly start believing it for yourself. Then you start living it, putting it into practice, until you become settled in it, unmovable. And that's when you're finally sealed, when God's character is fully impressed upon yours. Now, this brings us to the next logical puzzle. And trust me, it's a big one. Section 4, the grace paradox. If your character is perfected, if you're settled and sealed, do you still need God's grace? Let's put it another way. Does achieving this perfected character mean you've somehow graduated from needing God's grace? This is a really dangerous misconception because it pits two absolutely essential biblical ideas against each other. So in this next section, we're going to resolve this paradox. Because the truth is, grace isn't the opposite of perfection. Grace is the engine that gets you there. It's the true source. To really get this, we need to see that grace has two incredible dimensions. First, you've got pardoning grace. That's what we see in 1 John 1:9, the grace that offers forgiveness when we mess up. But then there's empowering grace from 1 Corinthians 15:10, which is the actual divine power that transforms our character. So one covers our mistakes, while the other builds our maturity. So here is the crucial point, the main idea. Perfection is not the absence of grace. Perfection is grace's greatest product. A perfected character is the ultimate trophy, the ultimate demonstration of what God's grace can do in a human life.
Let me give you an analogy that makes this crystal clear. Think about a parent and a child. A baby needs its parents' help just to stand up. A mature adult, well, they can stand on their own. But does that adult then say, I don't need food anymore because I'm so strong? Of course not. Their strength is the product of years and years of nourishment. In exactly the same way, a perfected character is the product of sustained, empowering grace. And this distinction becomes so important when we think about what the Bible calls the prophetic time of trouble. At that point, pardoning grace for new sins might cease because the sealed believer is so settled in truth they no longer choose to sin. But God's sustaining grace, that divine power that holds you up, that never, ever ceases.
All right, let's land the plane here. In our final section, let's lock in our key takeaway by putting all these pieces together into one clear picture. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's the critical final contrast. The legalistic error is thinking, look at me, I've stopped sinning by my own willpower, so I don't really need grace anymore. That's a declaration of independence from God. But true biblical perfection says the exact opposite. It says, I am so completely and utterly dependent on Christ's power that the thought of being separated from him is just unthinkable. That is true union with God. So let's summarize the unified picture. Number 1, perfection of character is a real, attainable, settled state. Number 2, it's the fullest, most beautiful expression of what God's grace can produce in a person. And number 3, it doesn't result in independence from Christ, but in total, joyful, unshakable dependence on him.
And we'll end with this verse from Matthew 24:13. He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. You see, that endurance, that ability to not be moved that we talked about, it isn't about just gritting your teeth and holding on for dear life. It's the natural outcome of a character that has been sealed and settled in God's truth, all by the power of his amazing grace.